All right, I was just reminded it's 1 o'clock, so we'll get started. It's on. Test, yep, we're good. Okay, we'll call this meeting to order on June 2nd, 2022 at 1 p.m. With that, I'll do a roll call. Dennis Bender. Here. Christopher Nunez. Here. Maria Okpara. Here. Wilson So. He's absent. And Rick Raleigh, I'm here. Maria, could you lead us in the pledge, please?
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. Okay, public comments before we go into closed session. Kylie, do we have any?
We do have one, and we have a handout for each board member as
Okay.
well.
Mr. Zackow, you're up, and these are the.
Well, I appreciate if I could have more than 3 minutes, not much more.
Yeah, it's fine. Go ahead. No problem. I'll never would cut you off. The police aren't here to remove you anyway.
No, that's what the Rangers are for. Okay, right now each board member should be receiving a copy of the memorandum of agreement from the district dated the 26th of May and a copy of the AVUSD counter proposal dated the 26th of May. By the way, both of those documents are online and public, so we're not going to be discussing anything confidential. Good afternoon, school board members, Superintendent Nelson, Assistant Superintendents. I'm Mr. Zackow, the Chief Negotiator for Apple Valley Unified Teachers Association, also known as AVUSD. Today, I bring news from the negotiations front. I will call this talk to you, the good, the bad, and the ugly. First, the good. For the first time since AVUSD and AVUSD entered into negotiations with the AVUSD Sunshine being presented on the 10th of February, AVUSD finally put some money on the table and offered us a 7% raise and $3,000 towards the health insurance package for the 2022-2023 school year. That equals approximately 10% COLA or raise, whatever you want to call it. Okay. AVUSD and AVUSD agreed to that after it was placed on the table, and you could see their proposal to us and our counter proposal to them that was agreed to. So that is positive movement. That is now on the table. That's a good thing. In addition to Article 19 money issues, we've also had firm and consistent conversations and positive movement on language. So all of that is good. However, let's talk about the bad. On the 26th of May, last Thursday, the district handed me a memorandum of agreement and placed on the negotiations table at 1 p.m. There was no prior discussion that I'd be receiving a memorandum of agreement. Now, in 22 years of negotiations in education, I never had an MOU or MOA placed in front of me without prior discussion specifically of what would go in it. There were several items in it that, again, I had not seen before since the district never placed any written counterproposal to AVUSD on the table prior to the 26th of May, last Thursday. Okay. I feel that was a very poor negotiations procedure. In the past, the way MOUs and MOAs are, one side calls the other and says, I'd like to do an MOU or an MOA. Then you discuss what's going to go in it. Then you put some stuff in writing. You just don't hand someone a document with your signature block when you've never discussed it previously. And I felt that was not negotiations procedure, good negotiations procedure. Additionally, I feel that had the appearance of an adversarial situation, and I did not appreciate it. Okay, I'm not going to go into every aspect of the MOU, but the MOA, but I am going to discuss a few. If you would please look at the MOA from the district to AVUSD. Bullet 1, the first bullet, they did not number anything, so we'll have to go by bullets, and I'll give you bullet numbers. Bullet 1 states, that AVUTA will accept the mandated increase in employer contributions of 2.5% to CalSTRS. The district has been paying contributions to CalSTRS to increase the rate towards employees' pensions for 10 years now. When this first happened, approximately 10 years ago, I believe in 2012, when the state told the CalSTRS that they told the district and the employees that they would increase contributions to CalSTRS, the teachers had an amount that they had to pay additional, and our amount was raised, and the district's amount was raised. And they told the districts over the next 10 years, approximately 1% a year for the next 10 years. It is the district's cost. The MOU clearly states that it is mandated. It is not a pay raise to AVUTA. 12 years ago, when the head negotiator attempted this, I told them the same exact thing. And I guess history repeats itself, because here I am now, 10, 12 years later, the same thing. That is the cost of doing business. That's why the district will pay the increase. And if you want proof of this, since we don't have a TA signed or any sort of agreement signed at this time, on the 1st of July, the district will make the payment, and yet there's no agreement. It is not a pay raise. What if AVUTA came to the district and said the following? You know, teachers have costs driving to work and going home from work, and we want to bill you for those costs in that time. What you would say is, that's the cost of doing business. You took the job, so you have to pay the costs associated with getting to work and from work. We don't try to put things that are going to cause roadblocks to negotiations. We seek to make negotiations smoother. And 2.5% that's mandated cost is a district mandated cost. It is not a pay raise. If you go to the last paragraph of the MOU, it states, MOA. The last paragraph states, this agreement closes negotiation on compensation for year one of the 2022-2025 successor contract. So by accepting the 7% and $3,000 towards healthcare, we are supposed to give up our rights to continue to negotiate. Again, I would say that appears to be very adversarial. Why should we give up our rights to negotiate? That's what the process is all about. And what this is saying, if we take this offer, basically all Article 19 is closed down for the rest of this year. It also states that, again, it also is the belief of AVUTA that that's a very restrictive language, and we feel it's a poor negotiation strategy. It's not a negotiate, it's a dictate. Matters of great concern to AVUTA that we've communicated repeatedly over the last 5 negotiation sessions. Counselors need help. SLPs need help. Coaches need help. And we picked those specific people out because they're the forgotten people in many contracts. They were completely left out of that MOA. We're not going to leave our forgotten people behind. We're going to make sure that the groups that we picked that need that help are going to get it. And by the way, the stipends for those small groups are so insignificant in a budget process. It's just amazing that you would leave them out completely. And if you go to bullet 9, again, I believe it's on the second page of the district MOU, it states that once we would agree to this, that negotiation would be reopened in the 2nd and 3rd year of the contract. Well, that's contractual law, okay? That always happens. But the way that AVUTA interprets this is the district does not want to do a multi-year deal. There's a reason why it's a 3-year contract, not 3 one-year contracts, so that we can negotiate money in advance, so that we can achieve what I like to call labor harmony. And we don't always have to be in contentious negotiations year-round, year after year. Now, in the past, I've been negotiating since the year 2000. I have written language into 6 of the 7 previous contracts. So therefore, I know the background very well. We have always achieved, if we haven't gotten a 3-year deal, we've always gotten at least a 2-year deal, okay? And again, if you look at our counter proposal, at least we put a 2nd year back on the table. Again, now imagine Imagine you had a business and you had a delivery package business and you tell your messenger, take this package to the top of that mountain. You have 2 packages. Would you only have him take 1 package to the top of the mountain? And then he comes back down and say, now take the second package to the top of the mountain. You would have him take both packages to the top of the mountain. And that's what negotiations is. It's like climbing a mountain. And when you go to the table, we're at the table now. Why close negotiations down and just settle for 1 year and then reopen and go back into negotiations for a second year, then close negotiations down and then reopen it and go back in for a 3rd year? The reason we do a 3-year contract is so we can settle as far in advance as possible. And then if adjustments need to be made, we make the adjustments. I can remember years we didn't even open a 3rd year because there was nothing to do. It was already taken care of. And again, that creates labor harmony. Now, just to be, again, completely honest, we did not turn the district's MOU down. We didn't say no. We said, let's talk about it. And we went into caucus, and in approximately 90 minutes, if you look at the AVUSD counter, we produced a counter in approximately 90 minutes. We offered that to the district. Again, our counter said the 7% and 3,000, we accepted that. We also said we want to continue with what we put out in the sunshine of 5% and I believe 1,500 for the 2nd year. And then various things that are too complex to solve in 1 day. And by the way, again, let me remind you, the AVUSD counter came on the last hour of the last day of the last week of the last month of the school year. I don't think that's very well thought out negotiations. It creates a situation where you really can't get very much done. And if you look at the substance of what they put, I believe there's approximately 20 things in there. 20 things. How do you honestly expect to negotiate 20 things on the last day of the school year? Okay, but AVUSD countered to the best we could. And then what the district told me was, we can't counter your counter. We have to go back to the school board. So we didn't shut the process down. The district did. They couldn't counter our counter, and negotiations ended for that day. That's the bad. Now let's get to the ugly. I told the chief negotiator for the district last year that we did not negotiate over the summer. That is our policy. And yet on May 10th, chief negotiator started bringing up, well, maybe we should negotiate over the summer. And I shut it down. I said, that's not our policy. And again, it came up and I said, okay, in all fairness, you want to negotiate over the summer? $1,000 per negotiator per day. That's what I said. They didn't accept my offer. So when you go into closed session, it wasn't AVUSD that completely refused. We told them it was our policy 9 months ago not to negotiate over the summer. So if somebody gives you a counter offer on the last day of the school year, doesn't it look like they really want to negotiate over the summer? And it came up on the last negotiation session. And again, I said, hey, we're on a 184-day contract. We're not on a 205 or 220-day contract. My teacher's already have vacations planned. Right now, 3 of my negotiation members are out of the state, and on Monday, I'm joining them. I'm driving out to Texas. Okay? So again, once teachers start planning their summers, it's very, very hard to negotiate. I couldn't even negotiate. We don't have enough for a quorum right now. But again, it shouldn't be brought up that or implied that AVUSD wasn't willing to negotiate over the summer, and we are holding up a deal. Okay? Again, the district was informed. Our policy is not to negotiate over the summer. The second issue that is kind of ugly, joint communiques. In the contract, it says the negotiators will put out joint communiques. It doesn't say how many. It doesn't say how often. I do not believe in joint communiques. I've expressed this to the chief negotiator of the district. Now, the joint communique that went out last week was a mess. It included in the joint communique approximately 9 language of draft article language that had nothing to do with anything about the joint communique. And Thursday afternoon, I start getting all these calls. What does that joint communique mean? And then I looked at it and I said, okay, they put some extra information in there. And I see how that completely confuses everything because it wasn't supposed to go in. I got a text from the head negotiator, said, hey, we put out all this extra information, blah, blah. I said, there's nothing you can do about it now. It's done. Yeah, you can put out more information, but then that's just going to muddy the waters even more. It's already done. I expect when a joint communique goes out, that it goes out properly and attention to detail is paid to making sure it's put out properly.
Zach, I'm going to cut you off. Are you about wrapped up?
I am.
Okay.
I only have one last thing to say.
One more?
Okay, the last thing is, I've pointed out the problems, I've pointed out the good, the bad, the ugly, and I would like to state, I look forward to working with the district when we come back in the fall. I want to work in a good faith manner. I don't want deals dropped on us at the last second, and I want to work in good faith, and I hope the board takes my words to heart as well as the district, because I know we can get this deal wrapped up because I've done half a dozen of these before. We can get it done, but we need a little bit more cooperation. With that, I will say, have a good day, have a great afternoon, and have a great summer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Kylie, is that the only one we had then for closed session? Okay. All right. So we're going to move on to closed session, but before that, we have quite a bit to go over here. So I'm going to read this off. Item 1, personal expulsion cases, EXP number 30, 21, 22 through EXP 31, 21, 22, STIP 7 through 10, 21, 22, AR 7, 21, 22 through AR 15, 21, 22. Item 2, conference with litigation, Government Code Sections 549, 56.9, current litigation, 5 cases, 1907-172, 20-11183, 2022-956, 202-3366, 2111-303, Government Code Section 54954.5, subsection C, 54956.9 D, subsection 2, and E1. Excuse me. Anticipated litigation, 12 cases. 2018-1907, 2020-2105, 2020-2107, 2021-2203, 2021-2206, 2021-2207, 2021-2208, 2021-2209, 2021-2210, 2021-2211, 2021-2212, 2021-2213. Item 3, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, reassignment, transfer, leave, title certificated and classified employees. 4, public employee appointment, resignation, retirement, reduction, title certificated and classified employees. 5, conference with labor negotiator, agency negotiator Dustin Conrad. B, employee organization, Alpha Valley Unified Teachers Association. Item 6, conference with labor negotiator. A, agency negotiator Dustin Conrad. B, employee organization, California School Employees Association. 7, conference with real property negotiator, Government Code 54956.8, negotiation parties, Matthew Schulenberg, Alpha Valley Unified School District. 8, superintendent evaluation. With that, I'll need a motion to go into closed session.
I move that we go into closed session.
Motion Maria, second So, and I also want to make, let everybody know that Wilson's trustee So is present. Okay, with that, we're going to go into closed session. And what time do we come out? 3 o'clock. Okay, so we'll be back out here at,
It's posted as no earlier than 1:30 on the
Not
posting.
posted that way. So we'll be going into a second closed session.
Or we may be longer, just no earlier than. Yeah.
okay, no later than 1:30. Okay, so most likely 3 o'clock.
Got it.
All right. All right. Got the thumbs up. We're live. We're going to call this meeting back in open session at 2:14. And we'll move on to item 2, which is reports union representatives from California School Employees Association. Anyone here? No? Okay. Moving on to Apple Valley Unified Association of AVUSD. Any speakers for AVUSD? Right. Okay. So closed session reports, Dennis. Will you read out so far what we've done in closed session?
Well, we had some great candidates. Most of you made it. That's wrong. On a motion by Rick, seconded by Chris, the Board of Trustees approved the following. Appoint Brian Redmond as Assistant Principal, Elementary Rio Vista School of Applied Learning, Range 7, Column 5, on the Certificated Management Salary Schedule 205 base duty days, effective July the 1st, 2022. And it was a 5-0 vote.
He has already left for his graduation, Mr. Bender.
What's that?
He already left to make it to his graduation.
Yeah, all right. On a motion by Maria, seconded by Wilson, the Board of Trustees approved the following. Appointed Reed Mickelson as Assistant Principal, Elementary School, Sandia, Range 7, Column 4. That's great. The vote was 5-0.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. He's already got a school at home. On a motion by Chris, seconded by Maria, the Board of Trustees approved the following. Appoint Brett Ettmeyer as Assistant Principal, Elementary Vanguard Prep, Range 7, Column 4, the Certificated Management Salary Schedule, 205 base duty days, effective July 1, 2022. 5-0 vote. And finally, least but not last, on a motion by Wilson, seconded by Maria, the Board of Trustees approved the following. Appoint Michelle Ponce, Principal on Assignment, Apple Valley Virtual Academy, Preschool Range 14, Column 2, on the Certificated Management Salary Schedule, 210 base duty days, effective July the 1st, 2022. Would you people please stand up, take a hand? That's
Mr.
really-
Bender?
It's really an honor to have that type of candidates. It really is. Thank you.
And Mr. Bender, in the audience is Sabrina Popick, who in a short time you will take some action, moving her from a dean at Phoenix Academy on the HR report to assistant principal. And so she's in the audience as well. So if we could cheer her on, I'd love that. So Sabrina.
Great.
Thank you.
We took things out of a little bit out of order here, so because we knew we had a lot of people waiting, and we're going to be here for a while more, and so we don't want you guys to sit here. But we appreciate you guys showing up and supporting one another, and look forward to working with you guys come August. Thank you.
And before you all exit, we're about to do a presentation. So I'd love for them to have an audience because we're going to celebrate some other things here
Okay.
coming.
So moving on to adoption of the agenda, the board may approve the agenda as is or add or pull items from the consent calendar for action. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Maria, second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Okay, recognition presentation. Recognize Apple Valley Unified School District and Sycamore Rocks Elementary School as a California pivotal practice district and school. So that's going to be Trinae.
And if the board would join me
Shirley,
in
come up front.
that'd be great. I thought we were dancing, maybe. I would like to have Theda Smith come up to the podium. And Theda, you probably should have brought Jessica with you, huh? Is she around? But it's okay. You can tell her that we talked about her. So I'm going to hand this to Theta because it's been sitting in my office and it really does need to be hung here in the district office. And it's a certificate of excellence for the Apple Valley Unified School District in recognition of a pivotal practice that was applied for by Ms. Smith. And I said her sidekick, and I'm just going to say that. Jessica, I know, did all of the cleanup for the application and made sure I had a copy of it before it went. And what I want to tell you is in the middle of a pandemic, Theta and her team pivoted with teachers and got training done and accomplished things that we didn't know we could accomplish. I just am going to say that, right? When you don't know what the next barrier or obstacle is, you don't know what's going to be expected of you. And to turn this around that quickly and get teachers the needed practice, things they were desiring, help with, identifying training on best practices online, it all occurred. And so I just want to have the board be part of this recognition because it's a big deal. And we are one of just a few districts across the state that were awarded this pivotal practice and only a few in San Bernardino County. So congratulations. And then Theta, I am going to give it to you. We'll decide where we're going to hang this.
Oh, okay, but you get to hold it.
You get it, yeah. And then if I can have Chanel and her team come up here too. Was that Chief?
It was.
It was Chief. Wasn't it?
That wasn't.
Oh. Yeah, no, I think he changes it so that he can hear when somebody's calling him, right? Chanel Benitez, Adrian Lord, and Lori Katera, the team from Sycamore Rocks, also applied for a pivotal practice for the school site. And I'm going to let you hold this. And what I want you to know is that pivotal practice was how to coordinate and keep families engaged during school at home. And what they turned around during the almost 18 months of this was celebrations on campus where picking up items at school became a time for teachers to celebrate with kids and engage with them. They flipped their arts attack and not arts attack at your school, but art celebration into something that was virtual with like 1,500 online. It was huge. Pieces of art. It was virtual. Everybody could see it, but they did drive-throughs. They did things that every holiday where students were used to having celebrations at school, they made it happen. And their families would come out like crazy. The line, just to get into the parking lot to drive through to say hello to their teachers and be part of the celebration. And so I know what has happened. Some of those have continued, right? There's some of these things that last after a pandemic. And so the pivotal practice of engaging families even during a pandemic, they absolutely deserve this award. And I know other schools in the district did it, but they just decided it was going to be their thing and they just didn't turn back. So I appreciate you. I appreciate engaging the families and how hard you work to make sure that they had an experience. So thank you.
Can you get a quick picture with the board? And you bring your award up? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh, you're gonna get a little closer. There you go. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
You're dismissed.
Or you're welcome to stay.
Who says it's okay? Class dismissed. We'll see you guys.
Hey, congratulations, though.
Have a good summer. Okay. Now we get down to the meat and potatoes here. Discussion, information, and Proposed budget presentation. Matt, we'll let him, everybody clear out, and you got the mic.
You're the man, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Rowley. Never fails. I seem to clear the room.
We all stay, though.
I appreciate that. You do have a copy of this presentation at your seat, a paper copy. I also have the slides up on the screen if you'd like to watch those. This is in preparation for the upcoming, you'll see later in the agenda, we have our mandated public hearing on our proposed budget for the 22-23 school year. Just to remind the board, this is a 3-year cycle. You'll see a budget year is 22-23, and then of course we have the 24 and 25 school years as part of our multi-year projection. So in preparing this proposed budget, business office staff, and when I say business office staff, I mean mainly Cindy Kunkel, the Director of Fiscal Services, utilizes some generally accepted information consisting of our own estimated actuals, which are prepared in May, the governor's January budget proposal and any changes that come out as part of the May revise, the FCMAT Lcff calculator, that is the Fiscal Crisis Management Assistance Team Local Control Funding Formula calculator. That's why we use acronyms for that one. The School Services Dartboard, and of course the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools Common Message. First, a quick trip through our estimated actuals. This is our current year that we're just wrapping up. Now these are estimated. You will see the financials for the current year again when I'm in front of you in September presenting the unaudited actuals. Then, of course, our auditor visits and conducts our audit, and then we have our audited financials. But as of May, this is where our estimated position is in our current year. You'll see we have unrestricted, restricted, and combined, and you'll see in those particular columns, I'm just going to bring your attention to the excess deficiency line. You'll see on the unrestricted side, we're projecting about a $500,000 deficit spend. On the restricted side, we're estimating about a $2 million surplus. Now, those are restricted funds, and there's lots of puzzle pieces behind this on the restricted side and the unrestricted side. With a lot of the pandemic relief money we've received over the last couple of years from both the federal government and the state of California, we've been utilizing some of that one-time money for some of our ongoing expenditures. So we move things around, and some of our federal revenue is what's called deferred revenue. So if you look back at second interim, you'll see our revenue numbers were higher. Now we get to estimated actuals, our revenue numbers are lower, and that is mainly because of that deferred revenue. We booked it as a revenue and expense earlier in the year, but it has now been determined that not all of that federal deferred revenue is going to be spent. Therefore, you reduce both the expenditure and the corresponding revenue, and we move it into budget year 22-23. So we are trying to most accurately reflect the revenue we are actually going to receive in 21-22, and of course, trying to accurately predict the expenditures with only about a month to go. Just a little more detail in the current year. $65.5 million on certificated salaries. That is certificated, including teaching and administrative staff. Classified salaries, again, that includes classified bargaining unit and classified management staff. Employee benefits, that includes health and welfare benefits and all of our mandatory contributions to retirement systems, unemployment, and you'll see the other expenditures. And we're predicting at this point about $198 million of expenditures. But then down at the bottom, I've also provided a little detail on a couple transfers out. The first one to Fund 14. A few years back, the board took action on a resolution to commit funds to Fund 14, to commit them for deferred maintenance, routine restricted maintenance, and custodial uses. We had been making a $600,000 deposit to that on an annual basis, but we're unable to do that the last 2 fiscal years. So we used this year as a catch-up, and we have made up those deposits into our deferred maintenance fund. The transfer out to Fund 40 is restricted revenue we receive, our RDA revenue. You've heard me mention that in the past. That's from our local redevelopment agency, and that is slated for facility use only. Hence why we transfer that out to Fund 40, our special reserve for capital outlay. Now, as we look at our budget year, you'll you will see we have budgeted for our ADA at the 3-year average. Now, that is part of the governor's proposal. That is not what is actually in place. But we received direction not only through FCMAT and the county schools and school services that advised districts to use the 3-year average. We are currently projecting our ADA in the multi-year projection, year 2 and year 3, to increase. Essentially, our enrollment this year has reached and slightly exceeded our pre-pandemic enrollment. So we are using the assumption that our enrollment will continue to reflect that slight increase as we were experiencing pre-pandemic, and our ADA yield will rise back up to more normal levels in the 24 and 25 budget years. We are using the statutory COLA of 6.56% and the governor's proposed augmentation. So we're budgeting our LCF revenue, you'll see just a little over 156 million, and budgeting federal revenues at 53 million. The majority of that being one-time COVID relief revenues that were allocated in previous years, but not received and not spent. So that's some of that money that moved from the current year into the budget year. We're also assuming we'll meet all of our class size requirements and receive our grade span adjustment revenue. I'm sorry, that should read TK through 3, grade span adjustment. We're budgeting for our statutorily required contribution to routine restricted maintenance. And I would like to call your attention to the transportation add-on. The state does fund us $1.4 million to run our $6 million transportation program. And we do now have a transitional kinder add-on as part of our LCFF funding that will start in the budget year, and we're allocated about $400,000. On our expenditure side, we of course do accommodate step and column for all of our units. We have accommodated the increase to both the STRS and the PERS contribution rates as part of the budget. We are still offering transportation, so we still have to replace our fleet. We have our LCAP expenditures in the budget, and of course, we have our ending fund balance we have to deal with. In the 22-23 budget year, due to several things happening at the state level, we are limited to a unassigned, unrestricted ending fund balance of 10% of total expenditures and transfers out. So you'll see there at the bottom of that particular slide, 2 of the items that you will see as part of this budget package on our meeting on June 9th is a resolution to commit some of our ending fund balance to expenditures that we know are coming. We are proposing to commit 3.6 million of our ending fund balance for our PARS retirement program payments. If you recall, in June of 21, we offered a supplemental early retirement program. We had over 100 staff across the district take advantage, and we have payments to the tune of $1.2 million a year for 5 years. In the current year, we had a payment. In the budget year, we have a payment. This 3.6 million is for the following 3 payments, which will fully pay for that commitment. And of course, we have a retirement benefit that we have negotiated with some of our employee groups. So we're proposing to commit some funds aside to pay for those retirement benefits in future years. And right above the commitments, you'll notice we have an assignment. We have assigned a portion of our ending fund balance for our proposed compensation settlements, the proposal that had been recently passed to our teachers, and some other compensation settlements. And so we've identified that in our ending fund balance. And on this next slide, I'll talk a little bit about the mechanics of that. So here is the first budget year projection that you'll see. We're looking at a combined revenue next year of $246 million. Now, again, that is inflated due to that federal revenue that fell out of the current year and was moved over to the budget year. And you take a look at that, you'll see, I would like to bring your attention to the unrestricted column, the excess deficiency line. You will see currently a 5.4 million surplus. This is where that assignment for bargaining unit settlements comes into play. Because right now it's assumed that money is not budgeted. So it's part of our ending fund balance. When and if settlements are reached with our bargaining unit members, that assignment will then be budgeted as an expenditure. And we have about an $8 million assignment. So you take $8 million out of our ending fund balance, budget that as an expenditure, and that $5 million excess turns into a $3 million deficit when we budget for those settlements. So that will change the picture of the budget. Can we still afford it? You'll see that in the multi-year projections when I talk about year 2 and year 3. But this is our first blush of year 1. Year 2, we're projecting an ADA at 12,725. Again, this is based on pre-pandemic enrollment trends and a normalization of our ADA yield. If our ADA yield in the 22-23 year does not materialize, and when we get to first and second interim in the budget year, we of course will have to revise these projections. The statutory COLA of 5.4%, which does net us an increase in our Lcff funding of just about $17 million. But of note, in the budget year, we are assuming the expenditure of all that federal revenue. And of course, the governor has proposed a large one-time revenue for school districts in the budget year. So of course, that does not continue into the second year. So we have to eliminate those state one-time funds. On the expenditure side, very consistent assumptions to the first year, step and column. It says no budgeted compensation increases, so I want to be sure and clarify that. We have not budgeted for additional compensation increases in year 2 of our multi-year projection. But in our multi-year projection, we are assuming that the assignment I spoke of previously is then moved up into the expenditures in year 2 and year 3 of our multi-year projection. So when we get to June of 2025, the ending fund balance you'll see is reflecting those expenses based on our proposal, our current proposal to our teachers and future compensation proposals. And here's a first blush at 23-24. Again, this is not budget year, this is year 2. You'll see we are currently projecting a deficit spend on both the unrestricted and restricted side of our budget. So we are projecting a combined ending fund balance of about $25.5 million in June of 24. For the third year, again, we are budgeting a slight increase in ADA. The trend, the pre-pandemic trend that we were experiencing, again, subject to change. The statutory COLA of 4.02%, which does net us an additional $7.9 million in Lcff funding. No adjustments to our federal or state revenue because all those appropriate adjustments were made in year 2 of our multi-year projection. Very standard assumptions in year 3 of our multi-year projection. Again, no budgeted compensation increases is specific to no additional compensation increases in year 3 of our multi-year projection, but we are assuming the compensation increases that are assigned in the budget year. So really the important part, the most important piece on this particular slide is June of 25 ending fund balance unrestricted, 22.1 million. That means we can afford what we're assuming based on the assumptions we know today. My standard disclaimer, this is subject to change and it will change based on the state adopted budget. Because if you've recently read and compared the legislature's budget proposal to the governor's budget proposal, there are some major differences. So the legislature, I'm sure, will pass their budget by June 15th, their statutory deadline. They will hand it to the governor, and then the governor, of course, he has the power to do some line item vetoes, and they will negotiate for a final budget package to be adopted by the state by June 30th. It's just some highlights and concerns that we have to keep in mind as we move forward. Of course, any economical and political fallout from the continued COVID-19 pandemic. Our enrollment trend I spoke of, we'll have to continue to monitor that. But based on our enrollment this year, The kids are back in school, and we were open for 180 days every day, and it was wonderful. Our LCFF funding, of course, we're assuming the statutory COLA and augmentation as proposed by Governor Newsom, which may change with the adoption of the state budget. And of course, we are assuming increased retirement system costs for all of our employees. Again, I mentioned the difference, or just to mention that there are differences between the legislature's plan and the governor's plan. And one of the biggest what ifs we're dealing right now is record inflation, economic turmoil. The last quarter GDP was negative. So if we have a negative GDP at the end of quarter two this particular year, that by definition officially puts the United States into a recession. So we don't know how that may affect specifically the state of California and revenues that flow to the state, because currently revenues are flowing into the state of California at record pace. And we do benefit from that. But when those revenues stop flowing to the state at a record pace, we'll suffer some of the consequences of that as a school district. So I do imagine you will see me in August with some budget adjustments based on what the state actually adopts by the end of June. Any questions?
I have one, Matt, real quick.
Yes.
With you mentioned the inflation, how is that impacting the budget, such as like transportation with the price of diesel? I mean, it's gone up over 50%, and the price of electricity and everything else. Is that a significant hit? Is it a significant hit to the budget?
It is a hit to the budget, and we are assuming increased expenditures in those categories and in the budget year and the multi-year projection. We don't quite experience the retail effects of some of these inflationary adjustments as we buy fuel in bulk, but we have seen a price increase, not the same as the price increase that the end consumer has seen at the pump.
We pay no taxes on the fuel.
I'm sorry?
We pay no taxes on the fuel.
That's correct. We do not pay sales tax. And then with the utilities, of course, energy, of course, is getting more expensive. That's something we have accommodated in our budget for several years now. But we are definitely watching those expenses.
If you were to compare this 22-23 budget to prior years, let's go back just 3 or 4 years, how would you say that this budget compares? Is it not numbers wise, but is it good? Is it strong? Is the outlook better than what we've dealt in the past?
In short, yes. With the record revenue at the state level, Rick, we're seeing revenue levels that we have never experienced in Apple Valley Unified, ever under the revenue limit or the LCFF model. The per student funding numbers continue to increase. The one-time money that Governor Newsom has proposed, the legislature is supporting that and actually proposing a little more one-time money to come to the school district. So yes, we are in a good situation in terms of our budget. It's very strong. But keep in mind, 85, and this is an estimate, 85% of our budget tends to be on people. And people are ongoing expenditures. So we have to balance the ongoing expenditures with the one-time resources that the governor has proposed, and making sure that we can, oh gosh, I'm at a loss for making sure that we continue to pay all the folks that do the great things for the students in Apple Valley Unified, and continue on those strong programs at our schools.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Maria? Did you have
Yes,
one?
so
Go ahead.
obviously I do.
You have-
I do have a question, and that has to do with your page 3 of your presentation, which was the 2022-23 budget assumptions. So my question is, you did budget for transitional kinder. So I think it's your page 3. This is not the page 3. So you budgeted for the transitional kinder. And the question that I have is, because of the age of those children, are you going to make any adjustments if the numbers appear to grow and now you have to put additional transportation to be able to pick up those children at a safe location? Because now you have to think about their different bus stops to keep them safe from their home to school at
Well,
that age.
Yeah, at that age, I would like to remind that we currently do have transitional kinders already on our buses that utilize the same stops as our kindergartner through 6 for our K-6 schools or our kindergartner through 8th grade students. So we will continue to structure our transportation and our stops at the best we can to serve all of our students, understanding that we anticipate a slight ridership increase in transitional kindergarten, but we're not anticipating that all of them will ride our buses because not all of any grade level rides our buses. But of course, we will continue to adjust transportation specifically as needed. And in the budget, we will make appropriate adjustments to our expenditure projections based on those services that we have to adjust.
So with our buses aging out,
Yes.
are you putting any cost into purchasing younger buses instead of those antiquated diesel buses and bringing the electric buses?
Two questions.
Yeah.
First, are we budgeting for the continued fleet replacement? Yes. I don't remember what slide that was on, but I did call that out on one of my assumption slides about fleet replacement right there in the 22-23 budget assumptions on the expenditure side. So yes, we will continue to buy buses. You might have noticed there's a poster back here. I think it was 2014. We made an incredibly large purchase of buses about 8 years ago. And some of those buses are getting what some people might say long in the tooth. They're getting miles on them and they're being used, which is what they're for. But we don't want all 20 of them to quit the same year. So we are working on, yes, buying newer buses. Electric buses, the second question, we are not budgeting to buy electric buses. A standard diesel or gasoline transit bus runs right about $200,000. An electric bus is a little over $500,000 right now. So, and the electric buses up here, we do have 2 that we received through a grant that are in service in Apple Valley Unified, and they serve one route because one of the buses is able to drive the morning route, and then it has to sit on the charger, and then the second bus drives the afternoon of the same route. So I know there's some advancements in technology coming, and the governor has proposed some economic support for school districts and electric buses. I believe they better serve more urban areas, not so much the rural areas with the length of our routes.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
What bulk tax do we pay on fuel? We have a Fed or state tax when we buy it in bulk?
You know, Mr. Bender, I would not want to answer that incorrectly, so I will get that information for you and address that question address that answer to the entire board.
Thank you.
When I can find that.
I've got one too. In regards to.
Yes, sir.
So in regards to the commitments for 2022, 2023, if you could clarify, are the funds to cover those coming balanced forward from 21, 22, or are those just in the projected budget for 22, 23?
No, those funds are not part of 2022. I'm sorry, the current year, 21, 22. The expenditure for the PARS retirement program was made last July, so it already was part of the budget. And in the 22, 23 budget year, the payment is budgeted. The commitment at 3.6 million is for the 24, 25, and 26 fiscal years.
Oh, okay.
And I say 24, 25, 26, that's the June of 24, so the 23, 24 year, the 24, 25 year, and the 25, 26 year at $1.2 million a year. So that money will sit there in our Fund 01 ending fund balance. And when those invoices come in, you'll see that commitment reduce. It'll reduce by 1.2 million in the 23-24 year, then it'll reduce by another 1.2 million until those expenditures are completed.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Wilson?
I don't have any.
Oh, okay. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
Matt.
job, Matt.
Kylie, do we have any public comments? Okay, great. Superintendent comments, Trinae. Okay. Board member comments, Wilson?
I just have one comment. I want the board to know that being on the county school board association since 94, 95. And I get to work with the county superintendent's office. Oh, I'm sorry. Ted Alejandro, and I want the board to make sure we tell your friends to support Ted Alejandro. Ted is a wonderful county superintendent. The gentleman that ran against him is a crook. I'm sorry to say that, Mr. Lawson, it's not a good man. Really feel. So anyway, make sure that we support the county superintendent. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Wilson. Maria?
I just want to congratulate all the people who were selected today, and to thank Matt for putting together this presentation. Every time he puts it up, we have questions and he has answers. I'm really appreciative of the information to tell us what is going on and how the funds are being expended. I will have my next comment when the next one comes up.
Okay,
But I just wanted to be sure that I thank the people as they go. Thank you so much.
thank you, Maria. Christopher?
No comments.
Dennis?
I just want to express my pleasure with the quality of candidates we had tonight for the positions. That's great. That's all.
Great, thank you. I have no comments at this time, so we'll move on to public hearings. We'll conduct a public hearing 2022-2024 Local Accountability Control Plan. And open the public meeting at 2:50 hours, and we'll leave it open for 1 minute. Kylie, if you could let me know when a minute's up.
And while we're waiting, I'll just make a couple of brief comments on the LCAP process.
Okay.
A couple of things to note. Important this year for the LCAP and what's in that document is also the budget. We had no carryover for the supplemental and concentration grant funds. What we were required to expend in those areas, we have expended. It's very important that we monitor that because we're supposed to spend this year's funds on this year's students, and we were able to do that. If we had not, we would have to carry those funds specifically over for those actions. And it becomes an increase in the concentration grant percentage. So that's an area of note in the budget. Expanding the types and the accuracy and information regarding student performance will happen as we go into the report on the LCAP in the fall. As you know, students had not been able to participate in things like the California assessment of pupil progress last year. So this year they have just completed that, and we'll have that data along with the other data points for attendance, discipline, enrollment, et cetera. Finally, next steps, the next board meeting will be the approval process for the LCAP. We are in continued discussion with the county as we go through the process of approval, awaiting your next step in June. So thank you very much for your support of this effort.
Great, thank you. Kylie, do we have any public comments on this issue, this public hearing?
Not pertaining to this public hearing.
No, fine. Okay, I believe that we'll close it at 2:52. So moving on, we'll conduct a public hearing on item 2022-2023 budget. And again, we'll open it at 2:52. And was there any comments, Matt, that you wanted to make on that?
No, Mr. Raleigh, I
Okay.
have no further comments
Okay,
unless there's any other questions from my presentation.
No. Okay, thank you. So we'll leave it open for a minute. Kylie, is there any public comments on that item?
We have not received public comment regarding the budget.
Okay.
And it is now 2:53.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, we'll close the public hearing at 2:53. Okay, so I think we have a public comment card that just came in.
Yes,
So
Mr.
we'll-
Raleigh, just for backup understanding, in light of student voice, We have been working with Alexandria Ortega, who is a student that just graduated from Granite Hills High School. And in error, we told her that the public session would start at 3 p.m. And so I wanted to be sure that we didn't miss her opportunity to give her feedback of a situation that I think
Yes.
we
good.
want to hear.
Well,
So,
great. Well,
Okay,
take
thank
the
you.
podium and we'll.
Members of the board, Superintendent Trinae Nelson, Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent, and the few that are in attendance, including my mom, who's recording me. Today, I stand here before you to speak on behalf of high school students as a recent graduate of Granite Hills High School. Throughout my years in high school, I have experienced something a disturbing and disproportionate amount of students have. I have gone through 2 periods of disordered eating. This is not as uncommon as you may think it is. Unfortunately, athletes, those in larger bodies, those on the LGBTQ+ spectrum, those on the neurodivergent spectrum, and those who just generally have access to media are all at a higher risk than the general population. There's a culture on social media and surrounding bodies that projects this ever-changing ideal of the perfect body onto teenagers. What I have come here to ask, however, is not that you address the societal implications of popular YouTubers endorsing 1,200 calorie diets or the social impacts of students bragging to peers about a 15-pound weight change in 2 weeks, both of which are prevalent enough to mention, I can assure you. But rather, I'm asking you to provide students with a more widespread and focused access to nutritional information beyond the scope of a food pyramid through high school and PE curriculum. According to a study published by the National Library of Medicine and outlined on the paper that I showed you that has some metrics and statistics, they found that those who have or display eating or feeding disorders are more likely to commit acts of self-harm, including suicide. So there are clear and permanent damages that can be done to students. While education may not entirely prevent this unfortunate occurrence, I firmly believe it will help to mitigate it and, in fact, is already within the health and safety standards as well as the PE curriculum itself set forth by the state. It just needs to be integrated. This can be found in the standards for mental, emotional, and social health, as well as nutrition and physical activity of the health and safety standards curriculum. Pages 45 through 47 for reference. I also have that outlined on the piece of paper that I gave you, as well as within the PE curriculum for Course 1, Standards 2 and 3, as well as Course 2, Standards 2 and 3. On top of this, I believe it would also be beneficial to point students to counselors and on-site therapists to address issues or concerns they may have specifically regarding relationships with food. Members of the board, I want to tell you that from my personal experience, the pain and suffering that this brings into a young person's life is immense. As I am not an educator or a person in administration, I cannot affect the change that I believe needs to happen. But I can bring this issue forward to you, and you can. If these actions can prevent even one student from believing that they are worth only 700 calories a day or less, I will personally consider this a success. As this issue is complex and requires likely more than a few minutes to understand, I would be more than happy to come back and address the board further regarding this issue. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, very well written and very well spoken. So we
Thank you
appreciate,
so much.
especially since you just graduated and you're really taking the time to come forward and present this. Commend you. So
Thank you
come
so
back anytime. We'll be back next
June 9th.
June 9th, but then
August.
yeah, back in August. So we're always here. So you're always welcome. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Good job. Great kid. Okay, so moving along with discussion session, item is recommended the Board of Trustees discuss and take action on the following items. Approve the certificated and classified personnel actions as listed. We have a motion.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion by Maria, second by Dennis. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Is there any, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Approve the recommendation of the administrative hearing chairperson effective immediately on expulsion case EXP 30/21/22. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion Chris, second Maria. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Expulsion case EXP 31/21/22. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Bender, Maria. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Expulsion case STIP 7/21/22. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Chris, motion Chris, second Maria. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Expulsion case STIP 8/2021/2022.
So moved.
Bender, Maria, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Expulsion case STIP 9/2021/2022.
So moved.
Motion? Chris?
I'll second it.
Wilson, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Expulsion case STIP 10/21/2022.
Second.
Maria? Second by
We got it.
Chris. Okay. Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Okay, annual review, AR number 7, 2021/2022. Motion.
Second.
Maria was the first, second was Bender. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Annual review, AR 8, 2021/2022. Motion, Maria.
Second.
Second, Wilson.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Annual review, AR number 9, 2021/2022. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Bender, second Maria. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Annual review, AR 10 or 2021/2022. Motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, I'm sorry. It was-
So moved.
Chris?
And then Maria.
Okay. We got to get this down for Kylie to
Yeah.
get it too, so that's why I repeat it. The second was from
Maria.
Maria. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Annual review, AR 11, 2021/2022. Motion?
I move.
Second.
Maria, Dennis, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Annual review, 12, 2021/2022. Motion?
I move.
Second.
Maria, and second Bender. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Annual review, 13, 2021/2022.
So moved.
Motion, Chris.
Second.
Second Bender. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Annual review, AR 14, 2021/2022. Motion.
Second.
Maria, second. Chris?
Mhm.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Annual review, AR number 15, 2021/2022.
I move.
Second.
Motion, Maria, second, Nunez. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Okay, moving on to J, consent calendar, approved consent list. We have items 1 through 17, and does anybody want to pull any?
I move that we approve 1 to 17.
Okay, we have a motion
second it.
through by Maria, second
I'll second it.
by Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, that'll be the order. Okay, that brings us to We need to go back into closed session again to finish up what we started back there. So with that, do I have a motion to go back into closed?
I move we go to closed session.
Okay, first Maria,
Second.
second Dennis. All in favor?
Aye. You better be here when we come back.
That'll be the order, so. Couple more comments, things. Nothing to report on. No, so.
I did it and then did it.
Oh, you got it, Dennis. Okay, we're back on. We're back from closed session, and I'm going to call back to order at 4:21. We have just one item to report. Dennis, if you can read out the one item.
On a motion by Maria, seconded by Wilson, the Board of Trustees approved the following. Approve the memorandum of understanding with the California School Employees Association, chapter number 828, dated May 17th, 2022, regarding mandated minimum wage increases on a vote of 5-0. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anybody have any future items for the future agenda, which would probably have to be in August to put it together? So, nothing? Okay. Excuse me? Yeah, the 9th. Yeah.
The 9th of what?
Superintendent comments. Do you have anything, Trinae?
Just a reminder that we do have one more board meeting. It's the LCAP and the budget approval, all of the things that we have to do, the second board meeting. It's next Thursday. We will post on Monday, not on Friday this week, because they are back to back. It is a very short agenda, and it'll be posted by 1 o'clock on Monday.
And that'll be 1 p.m. as well?
1 p.m. and posted with a only a 30-minute closed. So we'll be back out again at 1:30. So if there's any action that we need to do that takes time in closed session, we'll have to go to a second.
Okay, great.
On the 9th.
It's just next week, a week from today at 1 p.m.
Okay, board member comments. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add
Today?
today? Maria, you said you
I
said
do.
one thing?
I just wanted to congratulate the graduates because we just had a graduation ceremony and I think the students were very well behaved. And to thank the bus drivers for their bus run. I enjoyed that. And also to congratulate the pantry, the food pantry, for feeding that many the number of families that they listed, over 200 families. I think the school district is doing wonderful work in terms of reaching out to the community. And we look forward to a wonderful vacation, and we'll see them back in August.
Great. Anybody else? Chris?
I just want to
Wilson,
make a
go
quick
ahead.
comment that the Rotary Club, we had our first meeting last Thursday, and I'm sure, I will make sure that with the club continue to work with the school district on supplying food to the food pantry. Okay.
Great, thank you. Dennis?
Oh, no, I'm done.
I just have one real quick thing. Last night I attended the Victor Valley Adult Ed graduation with Trinae, and Apple Valley by far had the most students that
Yeah.
graduated. It was a lot of people. It was crazy, so it was good. All right, so with that, we have our next meeting, June 9th, 2022 at 1 p.m. and a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
All right,
I'll
Second.
second that.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we got some stuff to sign, Kylie? Okay.
Now, you picked up the other ones, right, Kylie?